And we are live on Remnant Princess. So today's topic is there's been a clip going around about this therapist called Jack Davis. Jeff James. And it's an interesting clip as he delves into the modern dating world and what the females are like and all the ins and out of it. And coming from a therapist, he definitely does delve into a different angle. And we're just going to look into that. And yeah.
You cannot say that you care about men and that you're advocating for equality. And I'm going to list these things off, and I wrote them down to make sure I don't forget it. You don't care about mandatory paternity tests. You don't care about paternity fraud. You don't care about male suicide rates. You don't care about equalizing hard, laborious jobs outside. You don't want to equalize that. You don't care about what happens to people that are falsely accused, which is almost always exclusively men. You don't actually care about the declining school performance, the rise in ADHD diagnosis, and the psychiatric medication that comes from it. You don't care about the lack of homeless shelters for men. You don't care about the weaponization of the family court, the equal custodial rights, reproductive say for men, reduction in child support and alimony, pathologizing of just men and masculinity in general, negative attitudes towards even men that want a nuclear family. You don't think or care about any of these things. And I'm not even saying it's just
what he's saying, everything he said is true. It's all very true. Anyone that claims to be, anyone that claims to be a feminist, the truth is they're only a feminist for females. I don't know why they define that word as a movement for equal rights when really it's a movement for only females' rights, for only females' opportunity, for only females' movement. It actually has nothing to do with men, as it started for females, but somehow it's supposed to define equality. No, there's no equality in that. It's only about what women can be able to get equally that men get, but it actually is exclusive for men itself and all the opportunities that come with it.
the feminists that don't care about it.
Nobody
I'm
cares.
saying most people who don't do what I do don't care about this at all. And you're creating, and we talked about this 80-20 rule. What's happening to the 80%? You don't care.
Not good.
And the beauty is if I just get the man I want, if I just get the partner I want, if I just I don't care about what's happening with men. Let's bring the attention back to women. That's what the detective did in that show.
Right.
And that is what society in Western cultures is unfortunately like.
You know what's funny is the whole 80-20% rule is if men was to do the exact same thing, there would be an uproar about it. If men was to talk about how 80% of females were unattractive, overweight, very unvaluable, and all the things that they don't want to talk about or admit, trust me, there will be an uproar about it. If men was to say that after you have a child your body don't look the same, etc., and all the things that a lot of females actually struggle with and use that to call you unattractive, then there would be an uproar about it. But no one talks about how a lot of females do that to men, and the 80% of men.
Most people only care about males or boys or men if they are their brother, their son, or their father, or their uncle, or their close friend. This society, in the quest to be fair to women, to improve their rights, allow the worst representatives to take it to its furthest extreme.
Right.
When we talk so much about misogyny, most women can't tell you what the term is for a strong distaste and hatred for men.
Mhm.
What's the term? What's
Misandry.
the misandry?
Mm.
Being a misandrist.
Mm.
Most men's experiences that we keep labeling as incels, we keep labeling as misogynists. Their experiences in coworker situations, in the schools, dating, on dating apps, is that a lot of women are either misandrous or they're so reductionistic of men that if you don't have the money, you have no say and you need to shut up. And even if you do have the money, it's happy wife, happy life once I'm in your life.
Everything he's saying is facts upon facts upon facts. And I want to welcome Boy Wonder and I want to welcome Silhouette. Welcome to the chat. So, listening to what he's saying, and misandry is something that's not really spoken about. Misogyny is something that is always spoken about. Even for having an opinion or a view, you will be labeled as a misogynist. But when females have a view, when females have an opinion and strong emotions, it's seen as healing. It's seen as she's just expressing herself. She's seen as, strong and empowering. And this is the double standards. And I find that a lot of females actually don't really care about equality or any type of equity, as they like to put it. They only care about being able to extract the most from society. And a lot of females feel that outside of marriage, they can't be able to extract because society will always uphold traditional women and traditional men and the nuclear family. But this is where feminism actually helps a lot of females when they don't have those things. So it's not even about getting opportunity, it's about what can I get the most when I do not uphold the standards that society told women they're supposed to uphold and told females they're supposed to uphold. So I find that it's all about being able to get the most out of it rather than actually focus on equality.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
done told my wife, we joke around about it all the time. When we're amongst other couples and friends, she sarcastically say all the time, the one I appreciate about Jeff more than anything is he's the same exact person in home as he is in public. He
Right.
doesn't change.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to say no, I'm going to say no. If I'm going to disagree, I'm going to disagree. And men not going through the natural maturation process as teenagers, as early adults, because they literally don't have the opportunity to with women. We can't be shocked anymore that there's an environment that's festering of boys and young men who unfortunately have a strong distaste. And I would argue, not even for women in general, women in the Western cultures and countries.
Yeah.
This is why they're running to the other countries and cultures where men are at least still seen as valuable, relevant, important.
No, I think
So,
yeah,
yeah,
they're all
yeah.
breakable.
And I'll be honest, females do the same too. We hear it all the time. Well, I'm gonna go where I'm appreciated. I'm gonna stop dating BLK men. I'm gonna stop dating men from this state, that country, this place. Females do it all the time. Literally, they talk about how he needs to make a certain amount of money, he needs to be a certain height because that is what is fulfilling for her. But when men decide to do it, now it's a problem. Now it's a problem when he wants to feel appreciated, but the only person that's supposed to feel appreciated is females.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that like anything in the West to redress any imbalance in anything, we've had to
Mhm.
go to some crazy level to the other side and
Yeah.
come to a middle thing. And why are we so surprised? Why do we have to have shows like Adolescence that, quite frankly, are pretty late in the game in
Mhm.
terms of culture? We're very
Mhm.
late in the game. And like you said, I talk to quite a lot of my friends, who are all parents. And they had no idea I knew about it because I'm doing this podcast and I see these comments all the time and I was very aware of it. I've read a lot about it.
I'll just be honest with you, right? It's interesting that we have these two fellow females on the panel. I'm guessing that they're married from the videos that I've seen. But Instead, what would have been refreshing in this moment is them actually directly addressing feminism and how feminism is actually a backwards movement that only benefits females themselves. But they will skip over that. I'm not sure what they're going to say, but from what I'm hearing is they have not actually addressed the real issue. They're just giving all these light opinions, especially coming from two Caucasian females. I'm not being funny, but if anyone knows about feminism, it's them two. If anyone that benefits from feminism, is them two. I wish they would just stop walking on eggshells and just address it. Welcome, Classy. They want to cancel him for telling the truth of a question that was asked from women. Interesting. Well, that's what they do.
I had no idea. Had no idea about it. And I'm like, you have teenage children and young adult children. How do you not know? How
Mhm.
are you that ill-informed? I agree
What?
with you. To
You
me,
know
it's
what's
very,
crazy?
yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but you want to know what's crazy? When you're in a market and environment where both parents got to work long hours
Mhm.
and both parents are out of the home for extended periods of time, and both parents have to figure out so much, and you don't even have one parent that's like really super involved
Mhm.
versus they both are kind of got 40-hour work schedules, and one may have to do additional overtime, and the cost of living is exploding. It's harder than ever before.
Oh yeah.
For parents, men and women, fathers and mothers. It's a lot harder now. We are living in an area in New Jersey where our property taxes per month is the cost of most people rent.
I just want to say something about that because it seems like it's going towards the 50-50 subject. I'm not sure if it is, but it reminds me of this whole talk about 50-50 and how both individuals, women and men, they need to be able to help so you can be able to do all the things that you want to do as a family in a marriage. And a lot of females, they demonize 50-50, but let's be honest, it has always been like that for a very long time. And 50-50 can look very different and very in different households. It doesn't mean that you're just working like a man, whilst maybe in the past you would have, even till today, but majority in the past you maybe have them maybe selling clothes or fruits, and some people still do that in third world countries. But in Western society, they demonize 50-50. But how else do you expect, if you are not this wealthy, rich individual, doesn't matter what race you are, 50-50 is always going to be something that you both are going to do because that is what actually helps and builds a healthy marriage. Whether someone's working or not, you both are still building this. This whole idea of this one man doing everything is insane. And it doesn't even make sense because you're burdening this one person to make your marriage successful. How does that even work?
Across the world,
Yeah. Of course.
where our daycare is more than the cost for daycare for 1 to 2 kids is the equivalent of what 50 to 60% of people in the world make.
Mhm. Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of difficult to be super duper involved and actually know what's going. You know what she saw? My son's home. He turns the light off when I tell him to turn the light off, and he doesn't get in trouble. He goes to school every day. He gets good grades. Parents are just surviving. Mothers, fathers, people are just trying to figure this. You know what I'm saying? Like this is. I'm not saying it's a complete. Like there's no. They get no fault. They get no blame. I'm just saying that the context for what we're in is what's also creating this type of dynamic and environment. So it's. And then lastly, I meant to say the dynamic. Why is this exploding? And why is this so big in the UK? And why are these government officials getting all involved in this? I'm gonna tell you this right now. If you are a young woman or woman, period, and you're thinking about, well, oh my gosh, this incel thing, and all these men want to harm me and hurt me and do this or do that. A huge percentage of the boys and men that feel that way, there's a reason why they're leading the statistics of being 4 times more likely to take their own life.
Right.
They're actually far more of a danger to themselves.
than to anybody else. So.
Even in a relationship,
Mm.
you take a woman who's in a relationship with a man and a relationship with a woman, her domestic violence rates is significantly higher with another woman than with a man.
Really?
DV rates are up. Divorce rates are up when same-sex relationships between two women than her with a man.
I know. It's the highest divorce rate is lesbian couples.
Yeah, and so is the DV rate.
What's the D?
They should be having the most orgasms. That's unbelievable.
Domestic violence.
Yeah.
DV rate.
I don't know who said that, but out of everything you said, she would mention orgasm. It's just like, honestly. You know, what's also interesting about this whole topic is not enough people actually talk about how a lot of women can be very abusive. Not a lot of people talk about how abusive single moms are. Not a lot of people actually talk about how much females are actually narcissists and the mothers that raise them are narcissists as well. No one actually talks about that. It's always about men and how they do things, what they did, and how they're dangerous. But no one actually talks about how dangerous women are, especially today. No one talks about it. And that is quite scary. No one talks about how it's actually majority of women that recruit other women to be escorts. No one actually talks about when a child is being taken out of their will, is actually women that do it. Because they are seen more safe in children's eyes. No one actually talks about that. No one actually talks about how with single moms, majority of kids that their lives are taken away is from their single moms. I've seen so many different cases about single moms harming their children or taking their life away. No one talks about that. But it's always centered around men. And I think it's very scary because no one actually is showing you how dangerous women can actually be. Which is also why they can get away with things easily and easier. Because no one is talking about the dark side of their egos and their pride and how far it can go. So you can be able to see that before anything happens.
Right.
Yeah. So again, the show is so popular, it's so big, probably 250,000 plus people are probably going to watch it. And now they're again adding to this narrative that the most unsafe you can be is dealing with and doing life with men or males. And what I'm arguing is a huge percentage of them end up taking their own life. A very, very small percentage of them, if they get successful enough, end up finding a suitable partner, or they're going abroad to find a woman who can meet their needs. So it's not to say that there's violence between men and women that doesn't exist. Of course, it's a thing. All I'm suggesting is that the show, there may be ulterior motives for why the show is being pushed. And whenever politicians or celebrities or anybody who's not a normal person jumps in on a wave, always be wary of what's the thing that they're pushing and what's the policy that's going to come down as a result of this. Is this going to be a social media crackdown? Is this going to be a monitoring thing where people have to register their social ID numbers or something in order for them to even have access to a website or have access to the internet? I'm going to argue this. Prime time, it's perfect to push something like this in a political environment when Gen Z and some millennials between men and women are splitting further than they've ever been. And then you have a huge pool of women who are looking for explanations to justify why all these men are splintering off and voting differently than us, thinking differently than us, going their own way, not wanting to marry women. There's got to be some explanation for it. And it can't possibly be because of our decision-making, our hierarchy of what we're attracted to or not attracted to. It can't be us. It's got to be because they're all incels.
Right.
It's got to be because they just outright hate women. It can't possibly be because there's been an environment that's been telling them that we hate you. Can't possibly be that. It can't be society or culture or the colleges or liberal, it can be any of those factors, or even how we treat the men who we think don't check off all our boxes. It can't be none of that.
A lot of females, I think it's for a woman or a female, it's scary to think that what you do and the choices that you've made has actually had such a huge negative, degenerate implication, influence, and a change in society that they will always run away from that accountability. That is something females do not want to be accountable for. They don't want to be accountable for the fact that the young women today are degenerate. For example, like the millennials, the females who are the millennials and the children that they're raising and all this women in my 40s, women in my 30s, they don't want to take accountability for the degeneracy that they're also influencing young women to do. So what he's really asking, it's a big thing to ask, especially coming from females. They're not going to take that on. They're not going to say, you know what, we actually have had a huge impact on how degenerate society is. That's what he's asking for females to do and say. You're going to be waiting for a very long time, forever, to be honest, because they're not going to do that. These females ain't even doing that. They're sitting there quietly and talking about orgasms. They ain't even doing that. And they agree with him.
It's got to be because of this Netflix series. And now we need policy to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's the level of thinking that I want all of us to start to get better at when we watch anything on social media, anything on streaming services, because I would argue much of the things that's impacting us and influencing the quote unquote gender war is not even coming from in here. It's coming from what we're seeing on screens and on these computers. When I walk around in everyday life, men and women still open the door for each other.
Mm.
A woman's in trouble, men are still going to rush to help her.
Mhm.
A black man, a white man is hurt in some way. Whoever the race of the person is, they're still going to try to intervene and help them. I'm trying to lift a heavy box. My white neighbor going to come and lift it up. Somebody who's gay or trans, if they need help or support, it's still happening. Hate exists. I know that. But I'm telling you, the social media, the trends, what's going viral isn't actually 100% a reflection of what's actually happening in most of our lives.
Mm.
You're actually not walking around and most men are spitting at you, calling you names, attacking you. That's not happening in modernity, not in mass. The majority, a huge percentage of the men that's a threat, they're arrested, they got records.
No, absolutely. Like, I think obviously social media makes it look like
Magnifies.
everyone is out to get you. And that,
You know what's so funny is that you hear a lot of females talk about how men don't court, men don't open the door anymore, men are not gentlemen anymore, men don't understand the worth of love and don't understand the value of relationship and marriages. Meanwhile, you talk about how you're afraid of men. Which one is it? Like, honestly, which one is it? Do you want men to be involved or you don't want them to be involved? Females talk from emotions. That's what it is. They're just emotional beings. And everything that they say is based off emotions. Half the things that they even talk about, they've never even experienced themselves. They've experienced bad relationships and being ran through. But half the things that he even said, majority of females have never experienced. And they will insult men and call men dangerous, but simultaneously still ask for men to court them, buy them roses, and open a door for them. Sound confused to me. By the way, welcome to everyone that's here. Thank you for being here. Just want to say hello. And yep, let's get straight back to it.
that's
Yeah,
why we're having so many problems.
so now adolescence,
Mhm.
as true as it is about exposing something that a lot of people didn't know, what's the takeaway?
Mhm.
that this is
for the
happening
people.
everywhere.
This is happening everywhere.
Mm.
It's crazy. It's so much going. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. The U.S. and our thing of violence, we have the monopoly. It seems like on school violence. It's insane. We're not using knives. We're using guns,
Yeah.
and much of it is in response to being bullied or being radicalized with some particular political or religious ideology. That's usually what it is. It doesn't make it any better,
Yeah.
but it's really not heavily connected. No, there is no significant data that shows that this is happening in mass. I'm telling you, if you went to the data and looked at UK stats of who's the primary groups doing the stabbings and the knifings, it's not who you saw on the show.
Right.
It's not who you saw. We don't have to go political or go into who is and who isn't doing. It's not who they showed on the show. You have a market of white males who feel so angry and disenfranchised and feeling like they're being blamed for everything, and they're not allowed to hold an opinion, not allowed to hold a view. And now you're shocked with the reactions and responses of what's coming. And it's not even all violent. There's just a noticeable shift. And in the end game, everybody can say, well, we're all going to lose in the end. The mountaintop is undefeated. Father Time is undefeated. Mother Nature is undefeated. The men post 30 who can figure out how to get what they need in order, physically, emotionally, financially, they have the leverage.
It's interesting because, he was talking about the UK and, how the crime rates is happening and, with all the violence. But no one actually talks about that a lot of these crime rates happen because they're poverty stricken and how majority of them are raised by single moms. No one actually says that though, do they? But hey, let's blame men. Majority of these youths and all the crime rates that are happening in the UK are poverty stricken and being raised by single moms. There was it happened, I think last year, where a single mom and her son, he doesn't even live with her. So many things were going on. And the son was telling his mom how he was afraid of having his life taken away. And then a couple of weeks later, it actually happened. And she was devastated. It was all over the news. And she was a single mom, mind you. Having to hear her own son saying that I may not be alive in a couple of weeks, and it literally happened. So if we're really going to talk about crime, if we're really going to talk about what is happening, then we really have to talk about what does their lifestyle actually look like? Who is raising them? And why are they found in these predicaments? Majority of youths that are involved in gangs are also raised in single mom households because they're more vulnerable to being groomed by other people because there's no actual man there with authority and to protect those children. So I find that, it's easy to talk about men, but no one actually wants to hold any women accountable for the household that they're actually running. So I just wanted to put it out there because he was talking about, politics and crime rates happening in the UK. And I just find that it's not spoken enough.
Most leverage a woman's going to have is when she's her fittest, youngest, most fertile self.
Of course.
100%. I say this all the time. Because I hear so often, oh, women are the gatekeepers of sex. And you're like, they are when they're young. When they're young, but you start to.
I'm just looking at the comments. Did he off himself? Yes. No, he did not. Sorry. Someone deleted him. Another youth deleted him. That's what happened. Everyone and the mom was literally all over the news and the internet, crying, devastated. So yeah, someone actually did what he said was going to happen. And I wish I did a video about it at the time.
I think women sort of 30, 35, you start to sort of, it's not that you're not attractive. The older we 35,
It's needed. They have the leverage.
Just had to replay it back a
The
little
most
bit.
leverage a woman's going to have is when she's her fittest, youngest, most fertile self.
Of course.
100%. I say this all the time. I say this all the time because I hear so often, oh, women are the gatekeepers of sex. And you're like, they are when they're young. When they're young, but you start to, I think women sort of 30, 35, you start to sort of, it's not that you're not attractive, but you're not attractive to the same age as men, whereas men can look up or down or along. Whereas women, the older we get, we can only look up in age or down in age. I mean, I always say to my husband, if I, God forbid we wouldn't get divorced, or if we got divorced, he could find anybody of any age. And it would be a younger woman. Absolutely be a younger woman.
You said he's a lawyer, right?
Yes, he's a lawyer. He can marry who he wants.
What are we talking about here?
Exactly. No issue.
There's be a line.
Exactly.
There's be a line. It don't matter how he looks.
Now, this is the reality a lot of females do not like to hear. Once again, I want to welcome everyone. Sir, the two greatest powers women held was access to intercourse and community narrative sentiment. Modern females have undermined both, and this is why they always resort to silencing the voices of men. Facts on facts. And, listening to what the lady in pink was saying, this is what a lot of females actually fear. It's funny because it's already happening, but hey, you have to cope, right? And trust me, a lot of females have mastered the art of coping. But this is what they don't want to hear is once you reach a certain age, you are not going to get what you think you deserve. A lot of females believe they deserve the best man that is out there, no matter what you've done, who you are, how you dress, you deserve it all because you are a female. Now, that is really feminism. The equality, the equal rights is it doesn't matter what you've done, you deserve equal opportunities. And they want to apply that in the dating world. But men don't even apply that themselves in their own reality. Do you think men think that they deserve the best women out there? No, they don't think that. They work for it. That's the difference. And so with a lot of females, this whole idea of the fact that the older you get, men your age can do better. And that's why they have to shame men when they decide to date younger women. And I know there's going to be some females out there thinking, oh, 18, listen, you can go from 18 to 35. They're still under 35, under 30. They're still young. Okay, you can have someone that is 35 and he can be with someone that's 25. So what they do is they have to shame men for doing better because he can. And guess what? If he can attract that, then he deserves it. If you can't even attract a successful man that's in his 30s and 40s, then you don't deserve it. People only get what they deserve. Okay? That is the reality. You get what you deserve. And a lot of these females are angry at the fact that they are not getting what they believe they deserve for so long. And the dating world and the dating pool is going to show you that in real life.
It don't matter how he dressed. When they hear lawyer and they hear widow, oh, he need food. He need.
Oh no, it's true. Whereas I'd have to marry an 8-year-old
For sure.
and my goal would be like.
I'm also marrying an 80-year-old, by the way.
I'm not
That's my
saying there's
plan.
anything wrong with that, but
Here she go.
but it changes. I mean, we could obviously go on forever talking to you. There's so much to talk about.
I know.
I
wanted to go back for 1 second.
Yeah.
Did you finish all of your thoughts on the cheating? Because we may have skipped a bit.
So I definitely prepped for this part because I figured this question.
Let's go. It'll be our last little segment of the show because we've already gone over an hour, which I love. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
All right. So the main thing I'm going to say is I'm careful to avoid what's called a naturalist fallacy. And this is the false belief that because something is natural, it must be moral or good. So I just kind of put that out there as a qualifier with what I'm about to say. There's something called like a blank slate theory or socialization theory. And it's basically it's the debate about nature versus nurture.
Mhm.
Most people who consider themselves feminists, they have a working presupposition or theory about human beings, men and women, and human sexuality. And their belief system is rooted in this. When you lean much more into nurture versus nature, anytime you see distinctions, differences, sociological reactions or responses for whatever reason between men or women, you're going to believe that you can socialize it out of them.
And what do you mean by that?
What it means is if you don't believe that there's biological, evolutionary hardwiring that's built into us to be attracted to desire, to do and behave in certain ways, you're going to believe that the sex that's not doing what you think they should be doing is because you can socialize them to now act like the other sex.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All right. The reason why that's important with this topic and all others is because there is a version of femininity that believes any distinction, even when it comes to sex, is something that just has to be completely 100% socialized and changed out of men. And that as long as men start to behave, communicate, think, and act like women, they'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to sex, they'll insist that there is no innate psychological differences between men and women. They'll functionally believe that because they're psychologically the same, we should have the same expectations. This is the issue. There's physiological differences. And the physiological differences some are very minute, but then some are massive with huge implications. These are some of the differences that I noted. And obviously, naturally, we know that there's differences between men and women, grip strength, speed, upper body strength versus lower body strength. We know this. Like, generally speaking, there's physiological differences, but there's physiological differences when sex occurs and when they have orgasm.
Mhm.
And I'm going to question I'm going to have a question once I list these off. And the question is this, actually. Do men and women experience sex, and are the consequences they experience from said sex the same or different? These are the things that I noted that were different. Men tend to have higher sexual desire and are more accepting of casual, non-commitment based sex. Sex hormone amounts and patterns are different between male and females. The hypothalamus.
Okay. I want to greet everyone. Hello. So Supreme said, women shame men for doing enough ways what they insist on doing in their 20s. Enjoy options provided by way of intercourse liberation. Facts on facts. Welcome 6C. Oh, I'm sorry about your account. Okay. He said a lot. It's very interesting. I will just put it in very simple terms. What I think it comes down to the man that you choose. It's really that simple. You know, a lot of females, I do talk to a few females myself on TikTok, and they mention cheating all the time. Oh my goodness me. If you knew how many times females love the topic about cheating, honestly, I've come to believe that they just love cheaters and they want cheaters to be loyal to them. Anyway, that's a whole different topic in itself. But when it comes to cheating, it heavily comes down to the type of man that you choose, which is why I always push vetting is important. Now, the first we have to realize that not all men can cheat. Believe it or not. Not all men can cheat. Not all men have the privilege to go to work and convince their co-worker to go back to their yard and have a good time. That is not easy, okay? And another thing, every cheater has a red flag. See, a lot of females, you know, when it comes to this whole cheating, they like to overlook a part that they play in as well. And that is by being attracted to a cheater. That's just the truth. Not every man is a cheater. Not every man is going to desire to have intercourse outside of the marriage. So now it has to really come down to him. Yes, when it comes to intercourse and the way a man is built and the way a woman is built, yes, very different. I 100% agree that there's nothing that he's saying I don't disagree with. But what a man does and how he chooses to do it, now that's always going to be different. And that's the key part where you're always going to have to look out for. And a lot of females don't actually focus on those key compartments when it comes to vetting and courting. And to be honest, a lot of females, they don't even court, they date. And they date men that are dating, not even courting, which is also another thing in itself. So that's how I see it. It comes down to the man that you choose. What's the topic today? I'm just reacting to a video, a therapist that has been going viral, and how he's giving his insight on men, modern women, dating, marriage, and whatnot. Okay, Panda Man, welcome. That's why I love when women complain about being invisible. They deserve it. Oh. Okay, well, welcome, Black Savage. Let's get back to it.
Which is the region of the brain involved in sexual activity, is both larger and more sensitive to testosterone.
Mhm.
Men tend to experience quicker and more intense sexual arousal and orgasms compared to women. Research shows that women's sexual desire has more variables and is influenced by factors like self-esteem.
Sorry, I just want to say something about this comment as well. You know, previously, a little early on in the video, he was talking about the 80 and 20% and how 80% of men are actually invisible, but women will complain how they feel invisible. You know, the irony in that, right? You treat other people like they're invisible, but don't like it when you are treated the same way. Anyways, just reminding me of that.
Relationships, emotions, and how they feel about their bodies, the relationship and overall emotional state, social consequences of clear communication of their desires in the domains of sex, especially sexually.
Welcome,
So think of
Daniel.
it this way, because that one could be a little bit confusing. If men were bluntly or straightforwardly honest about how often they think about sex, about the different ways that they think about sex, about the different types of women that they want to experience in terms of thinking about sex, if they were honest about how they felt sexually, are they rewarded for their honesty?
No.
And then lastly,
You know, yeah, this is actually really good what he's saying, because I talk to females, right? And when we talk about vetting, they say, well, how do you vet? How do you vet? And I just think to myself, how are you dating? You don't even know how to vet. That's the biggest issue. Is a lot of these females, they're already dating when they should be courting, and they don't even know how to vet. Right. And how I see it is, this is a very important conversation to have with someone that you're courting. Because courting means your intention is for marriage, right? Females don't talk to men about intercourse. They don't. They just think as long as I can throw it down and make him feel good, that's all that matters. No, it doesn't. Intercourse is actually a very important subject to talk about. I'm not saying that it's the most important in marriage. I don't believe that. But I do believe when you are getting to know a man, you should have a conversation about intercourse. And it shouldn't just be, oh, how I make you feel good and how you make me feel good. You make me tingly inside. No. Actually be serious about the conversation. Talk to him about his past, his body count, what he likes, what he doesn't like, what's important to him. How important is it to him? A lot of females do not do that because in their mind, they think, well, because they attract so many different type of guys anyways, they think that they are the creme of the creme. And any man that gets to spend time with them, he's lucky, right? He's won the golden pot. Meanwhile, you could be just any other coochie to him. So they don't actually delve into different topics and different conversations with men to really figure out what is it about him and why he finds this important, that important, including intercourse. And I think and that's how a lot of these females end up with cheaters, because they never have a conversation about it. Not about cheating, but even the intercourse. You never actually, they don't even look out for the red flags. As long as they're attracted to him, that's it. So I found it interesting that he said that.
That was quick.
Reproduction evolutionary drives for men or women. They're you are the product of thousands, if not tens of thousands of years of one side of a person or one set group trying to survive and procreate and mate select in a certain way. And the other group, you're the product of a person who kept sowing their seed.
Mhm.
And the question is going to be like, well, wait a minute. If there's all of these evolutionary, biological, physiological differences, and men and women clearly don't even experience sex, let alone orgasms in the same way, I don't know. Actually, I do know, but I'm just saying it facetiously. I don't know that in the quest to be like men, that's actually been a net benefit to most women, especially after 40, 50 years of this experiment.
Okay, like, of course it hasn't been beneficial. How is it beneficial to be something that you're not? I don't even know why females thought it was a good idea to try to be like a man and do what men do. Even when it comes to intercourse, sleep around and have all this experience. Like, how does it benefit you as a whole biological woman? Because I see them as females because you haven't actually entered a woman, they have never entered womanhood. But as a biological woman, why do you see it as important to live life like a man and experience life like a man? How did you ever expect that to be beneficial to you when you're not even built that way? And it's actually quite pathetic that it's taking them years to realize this. It's taking them to be degenerate and gain nothing from it to realize it. No, I see exactly why females are destroying these men today. Patriarchy is not natural to Mother Nature. Your BOK men got white patriarchal mindset. You will always lose, self-righteous, patriarchal. Interesting take. Okay, let's hit the play button. Boy Wonder said crazy broad.
That doesn't mean that men are justified to cheat. It seems to suggest that at least their biological hardwiring has designed them to better be able to be okay with doing it.
Right. I mean, I totally agree with that. Like, men are built to sex. And women
So
are
we're both built to have sex, but men are better built to do meaningless sex.
right.
Right.
What came with the sexual revolution and liberation, we have to acknowledge, was the opening the door for loveless sex,
Well, men are built to populate the earth.
for commitment-less sex.
Mhm.
And men are biologically hardwired to be better built with doing that on a regular basis. And nothing feels like wrong for him to do it. He doesn't have to know your name. He doesn't have to know anything about you.
I can see why the females got triggered by this. Everything that he's saying right now, no female or woman really wants to hear. But the truth is going to be like that sometimes. Okay. When it comes to being promiscuous and having different encounters with people, yes, men are built more to do it. Let's just be real about it. Okay. At least, like, if we just look at it logically, on a logical plane for a minute, men, when they do the deed and have intercourse with the female, he has what they call a post-nut clarity, which, how I see it, is he actually will find it easier to not even be attached and release any type of emotional attachment from the female right after he's had the intercourse. Females and women can't do that. There's no such thing as a post-nut clarity. If anything, they do the opposite. They actually end up liking you more. Oxytocin levels has risen. You're more connected. So even after the intercourse, the way men respond and the way women respond is very different, which is why I agree with him. I do not agree with cheating. I do not condone cheating. And that's why I said that you have to choose the right man and his belief and what he values, because that's really what it comes down to. But if we're going to really talk about who is built to do certain things, yes, men are built more to have multiple intercourse. They literally have this whole biological setting where they can be able to detach themselves from that person. Meanwhile, a female can't do that. And if she does do that, then the truth is there's actually something wrong with her. So let's just be honest for a second. Let's get out our feelings.
Just has to find you attractive. There's so many more social cues. There's so many more cues that a woman is safe. Is if something happens, is he going to harm me in some way? There's so many other things that's innate in there. No one had to tell her these things. And so for me, it's less about whether it's right or wrong, and it's more about, in the quest to be progressive and modern and this and that, are we ignoring biological reality at the potential risk and demise of women? I would argue that the greatest victims of this experiment that we've been doing, loveless, commitmentless sex, recreationally. Number 3 on the list is the men who can't get access to it. Number 2 on the list are women who are single and can't find a suitable partner, who are looking for long-term commitment and monogamy in a market where the men who get the options don't have to give that.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 on the list is children.
Oh my, yes. I was just thinking, I was hoping he was going to say children. And he did. I was so happy to hear that. Yeah, this whole interview was it was actually very pleasant to hear. And it was very refreshing. And he spoke nothing but truth. And if a lot of females are triggered by it, well, guess what? That's what they're good at doing. They're good at being triggered by the truth. What he said there, he said it perfectly. And that was a great way to end that whole video and interview. I'm sure it went on, but in this case, that was perfect. Because number 1 is definitely the children, because what that indicates is that a lot of them were reproduced outside of wedlock. And like I said, the stats prove that they're poverty stricken, the crime rates is up, they're more likely to be abused. So yeah, definitely the children are the ones that actually are the victims out of all of this promiscuity that feminism empowered females to go through. Men, yeah, they don't get access to coochie as much, but when it comes to the 3 lists that he mentioned, it's not hurting them as much as it's hurting the females that actually are having intercourse with these different multiple men. And Boy Wonder, he quoted a Lil Wayne lyric. It's like, as soon as I come to my senses. Facts on facts. That's why I said they are built. Men are built differently. And the sooner females realize this, the better. That is the truth. Black Savage said they can't handle the truth. Can but hurt. Exactly. They can't handle the truth. They can't. And that's why the children are first and second is women, because at the end of the day, it's the females that are losing when they choose to be liberated, when they choose to have multiple intercourse with men. When they can't even be able to connect with another man properly. That is the truth. Where do you think alpha widow comes from? And you hear it from a lot of females as well. I saw a video about how a female was actually saying that she would never be able to love like she did before. And if you really look at that, when a female has encountered different men, understand that you are never going to get a certain amount of loyalty, love, and connection from her again, ever. Because she's already given that to another man. Whether she was 15, 18, 25, the man is never going to be able to get the authentic side of her. And that's where a lot of females don't actually realize that when you have intercourse with multiple people and you're looking to have a relationship with a man and get married, he's not going to get the authentic side of you anymore. He's better off just never actually taking you serious. That is the truth. Welcome the our level. Oh, okay. A lot going on in the comments. So yep, that was an interesting interview. I want to thank everyone for coming. I see why a lot of these females got triggered, but there's nothing to be triggered by if you just actually think with logic. And logically speaking, yes, men are definitely built to have intercourse more than women are. And logically speaking, feminism has nothing to do with equality. It's only about females being able to get equal opportunities even when they are degenerate. That's actually what it's about. When they use equality, it's nothing to do with a man gets to be equal and a woman gets to be equal. It's all about her just getting the same amount of opportunities if she was degenerate, her being treated as a wife if she was a 3 or 4, and etc, etc, etc. That's where the equality really comes in. It has nothing to do with men. It never had anything to do with men, and I wish they would just stop lying about it. I mean, some are honest about it, majority aren't. Okay, Supreme, not just that, those children will have to reconcile the mental trauma of learning that they were not intended, but rather they were bargaining a chip. Anthony, Edward, and Aisha Howard. Yes, that is true. And that's something I also say is that when children come out of wedlock, a good 80% of the time, they were not intended, they were not planned, and not wanted. And that is something children sadly have to live with. No one talks about that either. Black Savage, women don't have any logic pan in their brains. Nope, they do not. Yes, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you, Daniel. Lastly, women today lost their way because they live in the patriarchy. This is not their natural setting. Okay. I mean, that's an interesting take. I think there's always a natural order to everything. And I think in today's society, a lot of people are against the natural order. They are against a nuclear family and they are against a man leading that family. And, it's not just about a lot of females will feel like, well, why is it men this, men that, that, that? But at the end of the day, this is why I say this whole 50-50 narrative it doesn't make any sense. Because just as much as the man has to play his part, you two have to. You both are doing it together. But it seems that a lot of females just want it their own way. That's just really it. They want what they want no matter what. And they don't care who it hurts, including the children. So yes, once again, I want to thank every single one of you guys for joining my live. I'm definitely going to be doing more lives. So just keep an eye out. And yes, thank you for joining me. And I hope to see you again on my next live. So thank you and bye.